Today's daf we're going to be learning is Chullin, Daf Tzadi Aleph. We're going to get started with a quick review of the end of yesterday's daf. We saw this opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that disagreed with the Tan of our Mishnah, who said that Rabbi Yehuda said the sciatic nerve, the Gid Nashe, is only forbidden on the right side. Okay, today we're going to see where we get to the right side, but we're not going to get to that yet. And he said that Hadat Machrat Echel Yamin. It would seem to be that it's the right, or the Dat Machrat, the knowledge pushes us to say or convinces us that it's the right. The question was, convince us definitively, like the Torah, the opinion of the Torah is it's the right, or is it seems to me. So now, really it's a suffix, and that's the big question. So we brought a Mishnah in Psachim to try to prove specifically that one said that it's actually a doubt, and that's why we have to leave the Gidim of the Korban Pesach, which we assume means the Gid HaNasheh. Okay, we have to leave over, we can't eat it, and we have to burn it. Why can't we eat it? Because we're not sure if, right, we're talking about if it's forbidden, if it's not, is it really the right or is it really not, and therefore we can't eat it, but we also have to burn it once it's left over. Then Rav Ika bar Chanina said, and we're going to see three other ways to read this. Okay, the first is Rav Ika bar Chanina, which means we're not going to learn that from here, which is, oh no, you could say it's obvious, but this was a case, that Mishnah, where the two were taken out and we just got mixed up, which was right, which was left. Rav Ashi, starting at the top of our daf now. Rav Ashi Amar, Lo nisracha ela l'shamno. Maybe that was only talking about the fat of the Gid HaNasheh. Tanya shamno mutar. The fat, theoretically, according to this Braita, is actually permitted. The Yisrael kadoshim nagu bo isur, but the Jews kept a higher standard and forbade it. So now we explain, that's why we can't eat it, only because of the minhag. People don't eat it, and therefore you can't eat it on Pesach, but you also have to burn it, because then it ends up being something that by Torah law was left over and should have been eaten, and therefore that's a different way to explain it. Ravina Amar, fourth explanation. Lo nitzracha ela l'chad Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. It was needed for Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, the Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Shnei Gidim hem. There's two different Gidim, and now we're going to explain. This Gid is not talking about the central Gid that is forbidden. It's a different one that's only forbidden by Torah law. We made mention of this before. Pnimi samuch le'etzem asul v'chayavin alav. The inner one is near the bone. That's the one that comes out from where the vertebrae hits the tailbone and it comes down from there. And that's the one that's forbidden. But the chitzon is samuch lebasal. The outer one is near the flesh, and that either comes out of the sciatic nerve or comes from a place higher up on the animal, like more toward the backbone, coming out of there. It's more near the flesh, not near the thigh, and ein chayavin alav, and you're not liable for it. Now, it's derabanan, it's forbidden, and then we're going to say, that's why. Again, it's kind of similar. The last one was, it's permitted by Torah law, but forbidden by custom. But here, this one is forbidden by rabbinic law, and that's why, again, it has to be left over, and you can't eat it. But you do have to burn it, because by Torah law, it's notar, it's something that was left over. Okay, so either way, we have four interpretations out of that Mishnah. Only with the first one do we get to an answer for our question, but since we can now read it in three other ways, we don't really have a definitive answer. So we tried to say it was a suffix, we reject that. Second attempt to answer, we're going to have three answers to this question, or three attempts to answer it. Tashma, achal mizeh kezayit umizeh kezayit, sofek shmonim. If you eat from the right and the left, you're going to get 80 lashes, because you ate two gidim, right? Two Gid HaNashes. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Eino Sofeg Ela Arba'im. Rabbi Yehuda says you only get 40 lashes. Now, Iamrat Bishlama Mifsha Pshitale. Now, if you're going to say it's obvious to him, then Shapir. Then it makes perfect sense. You ate the right, and then you ate the left. On the right one, you're going to get your lashes. On the left one, you're not. Ela Iamrat Sipuke Misapkale. Now, if you say you're not sure which one, you really can't get lashes. For what reason? Havyale Hatra'at Safek. Because this is what we call a warning out of a doubt. V'shamina leila Rabbi Yehuda da'amar hatra'at safek lo shma hatra'ah. Rabbi Yehuda says a warning out of doubt is not a warning. What does this mean? If you're about to murder someone, and I say don't murder them, do you know that if you murder them, you're going to get this punishment of death? And you say, I don't care, and you do it anyway, then you can get punished. If I don't warn you, you don't get punished. Now, what happens there is, I warn you, and immediately after, you go do the act. So we connect the warning to the act. But if I say, it might be that you're going to get the death penalty for doing this, because maybe it's wrong, maybe it's not. Okay, now in murder, it's pretty clear. But in this case, we're going to say before you eat the right one, I say to you, do you know that it's possible that that's the one that's forbidden, but it's also possible it's not? That's not a valid warning, because then when you do it, well, you weren't sure anyway if it was forbidden, so we can't make you liable. So since he says a warning out of doubt is not a warning, therefore you wouldn't get lashes, not for eating the right and not for eating the left, because each time we're not really sure if that's the one. So therefore, the fact that he says you do get one set of lashes, you must think that it's definite. Now, how do we know that Rabbi Yehuda holds Hatra'at Safek is not a Hatra'ah, is not a valid warning? Tanya, as it says in the following Braita, Hikayt zeh v'chazar v'hikayt zeh. Okay, now, here you have a case where if you hit your father, you're going to get the death penalty. But here you weren't sure which person was your father. So first you hit one, then you hit the other. Kilel et zeh v'chazar v'kilel et zeh, or you cursed one and then you cursed the other, and you're not sure which one was your father. Hikash nehem bevat achat, o shekilel shnehem bevat achat chayav. If you did it at the exact same moment, you'll be liable. Rabbi Yehuda omer bevat achat chayav bezeh achar zeh patur. Rabbi Yehuda says only if it's bevat achat, not if you did it one after the other. Because if you did it one after the other, then your warning was a warning of safek, because you got a warning before each one. And each time the warning was, well, maybe that's your father and you'll get the death penalty, but it wasn't a definitive warning. So how do we explain this then? So what did we try to say? It must be that since Rabbi Yehuda holds Hatra'at Safek is not a warning, this can't be an issue of doubt. It must be, it's definitive. To which the Gemara says, no. Hai Tana, Savrale Ka'idach Tana to Rabbi Yehuda. There's a different Braita that says something opposite the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, not exactly opposite, but we're going to see that it seems to indicate that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't think that a warning out of Safek is a problem. He actually thinks it's a valid warning. How do we know that? Well, Ditanya, as it says in the following Braita, Lo totiru mimenu ad boker. This is notar that we mentioned before. Don't leave over the meat till the morning. The next phrase is, and whatever's left till the morning, you have to burn. So, what's this called? This is what we call a lav hanitak la'aseh. It's a negative prohibition that has a positive formulation of how to fix the problem. So, ba katuv litein aseh achar lo taseh. After the lo taseh of don't leave it over, it then says, what you leave over, burn in the morning. Lomar she'en lo kinalav. This is an indicator that you don't get lashes for this. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Now, if that's the case, then we say, oh wait, lo totiru should be a case of hatra'at safek. And the fact that Rabbi Yehuda brings a different reason why it's exempt means that it's not because it was a hatra'at safek. Now, why is notar a case of a hatra'at safek? Because when I leave over the meat till the next morning, what happens? Well, when was I warned? You warned me during the day, listen, if you don't eat this meat till the morning, you're going to get punished, right? You're going to get lashes, let's say. Now, you can't really warn me. That's not a valid warning because I have all night to eat it. So the fact that I don't do it immediately, this is a bit of a different suffix, okay? The suffix is when I say to you, don't murder this person. If you murder them, you're going to get the death penalty, and then you go and murder them, so you went ahead and murdered them. So we know that you didn't care about my warning. Now, if you waited 2 hours and murdered them already, that's not connected to my warning. Maybe you forgot about it. So same thing here. If we have, now that's going to be again a hatra'at safek because we're not sure if the warning was connected to the action. In the end, you just maybe forgot to eat the meat then later that day. So you can't say my warning is connected to it. So it's not a valid warning. So therefore, we're going to say that Rabbi Yehuda is the Braita is going to go like the Rabbi Yehuda that appears in that Braita. Okay? Just 1 second. Yeah. So these are just two different opinions about what Rabbi Yehuda holds about this, okay? Because again, now it's a little tricky because he doesn't really talk about a hatra'at safek here. But the assumption is that this is a case of a hatra'at safek because we're not sure if you're going to, in this case, the safek is not, are you doing the thing wrong because is this your father, is it not your father? But the issue is that we're not sure if you're doing it wrong immediately after because maybe you're planning to eat it and just something happened and then you just end up not eating it later by accident. So that we're now going to say that you could read that position of Rabbi Yehuda was according to that opinion, that a warning of safek actually is a warning. And that's why you're going to get the 40 lashes. In any case, we're in the middle of a Braita here, and we're not going to stop because we're now going to see a different opinion. Not relevant for our flow of the Gemara, but Rabbi Yaakov Omer, he disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda. He says, I agree that you don't get lashes for lo totiru, but why? For notar? Lo min Hashem hu zeh. It's not for the reason you said. Ela mishum davi lav she'en bo maaseh. V'chol lav she'en bo maaseh en lokin alav. There's no action associated with it. What is it? What does that mean? Well, if I leave over the meat, what I did is I didn't eat it. So there's no action. And when there's no action, you don't get lashes. That's why you don't get lashes. Okay, that was a total aside because it was just because of the Braita and he disagreed with Rabbi Yehuda's position there. So what we ended up in this section was we have two different positions of Rabbi Yehuda and we're not sure which one the Braita is holding by, two opposite positions of what Rabbi Yehuda holds about a warning that's out of doubt. And therefore, we can't come to any conclusion about how to read this source and whether it can give us an answer to our question. So the first one we brought to try to say it's a case of doubt. This one, because there were lashes, we tried to say, it must be a case of definitive, but we don't necessarily know that because we just proved maybe otherwise. Tashma, third source. You had two gid and ashes from two different calves from two different animals. Safek shmonim, because you ate two gids from two different animals, you're going to get 80 lashes. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, eno safeg ela arba'im. You're only going to get 40. Now it doesn't say which one you ate and what the story was, but the assumption is, midika amar shtei yerechot mishtei be'emot, two thighs from two animals, pshita de travayu li'isura. It must be they're both forbidden, and le Rabbi Yehuda itzrich, and it was needed for Rabbi Yehuda. Why was it needed to Rabbi Yehuda? Because it must, if it was the rabbis, you could have had two on the same animal. Rabbi Yehuda thinks it's two you ate that were prohibited. One was the right from animal one and one was the right from animal two. And what do you see here? You get lashes. So now, Shma Minan, Mifsha Pshitale. It must be, it was obvious to him that the right is forbidden and that's why you're going to get the lashes. Shma Minan. And from there they conclude it's definitive. Now there's a bit of a problem here. What's the problem? Well, if according to Rabbi Yehuda you ate the right from this animal, the right from that animal, he says you only get 40 lashes. That doesn't make any sense. If it's definitive that you ate the right and then you ate another one that's the right, you should get 80 lashes. So the Gemara is going to ask, something doesn't make sense here. So why are you getting 40 and not 80? You should get 80. To which they answer, must be a case where the gib was so small that there wasn't even an olive bulk in it. And because of that, you're only going to get 40 lashes because together, eating both of the gidim from the two different animals, you end up with a kazayit. Now, this actually is the machloket between him and the rabbis. And now we're going to see it in a braita. Titanya achalo ve'embo kazayit chayav. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad shehebo kazayit. The rabbis say, if you eat a whole gid, hanashem, right? The whole sciatic nerve, even if it doesn't have a kazayit in it, that's a complete unit. Excuse me. This is what we call in halacha a bria or a biria, right? It's a whole complete item. So it doesn't matter that it doesn't have a kazayit, it has significance because you ate the whole gid and ashet. So the rabbis are going to say, okay, you ate two of them, neither had a kazayit, it doesn't matter. You liable 40 lashes for each one. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you're going to be liable only if it has a kazayit. So in this case, you ate, let's say, half a kazayit of one, half an olive bulk of the other. Together, they're going to add up. But you're only liable lashes for one because it didn't have enough in it. And that's just an assumption they make about this because otherwise Rabbi Yehuda really doesn't make any sense. In the end, we end up with an answer. The Rabbi Yehuda was definitive that it's the right side. Now that we know it's definitive and it's what we called before Dat Torah, not to be confused with what we call nowadays Das Torah, something different, but Dat Torah, meaning it comes from the Torah. So Tamamai, where does he get it from? Where does it say this in the Torah? And then we're going to have to say, and why do the rabbis think otherwise? I'm a Rava, so we're going to have 4 answers to this question. Okay? Amar Kra. So Rava says, the pasuk says, Hayarech, right? Al kaf hayarech, right? It says, don't eat the gid and asher, which is on the kaf hayarech. Now, hayarech, the thigh. Why does it say the thigh? Ha miyumenet shebayarech, the better thigh. That's the right one. The right is always the better one. V'rabanan. So what are the rabbis going to say to that? No, what does the thigh mean? Hahu de pashad isure bekule yarech. It's the one that the isser is in the whole thigh. La fuke chitzon de lo. It's which gid? The gid that's on the inner one. The one that's forbidden by Torah to be saying it's not the one that's the outer one. The gid chitzon that we talked about before. So that's what it's coming to say. The one hayarech That's al kaf hayarech, that it goes all throughout the thigh, throughout the whole thigh. It's opposed to the gira chitzon, which does not. For Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar. So second answer, how we know it's the right. Amar Krab behei avko imo. Now, hei avko is when they were fighting, right? This is the angel, right? Heard the kaf yarech of Yaakov when he was hei avko. He was fighting against him. But hei avko comes to the language of chovek. Okay, the bet kuf of hei avko. The hei bet kuf. They take it and they take a little out. They kind of ignore the aleph, and they say ke'adam shechovek et chavero. It's like a friend is hugging another, and they were in a almost like a hold, the two of them, like a hug hold, bear hug kind of thing. Now, if you're doing that, imagine you're holding someone in a hug like that, and his right hand is where the angel's right hand, which is where what he used obviously to hit Yaakov, right? Most people are righties. I'm not, I'm lefty, but right, we know the general is, we're assuming, with his right hand, and then right, this whole sugya is the righty sugya we're going to see. Where's your right hand going when you're opposite someone? It's going to go straight to their right thigh. So that's why he hit him on the right side, and that's how we know it was the right side. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar. Okay. Now, according to number 3 and 4, you might have noticed the rabbis don't respond here because at the end of 2, 3, and 4, we're going to have the rabbi's response to all 3. So in answer number 2, have koimo is chovek. We have them standing opposite each other. In the next 2, they're going to be next to each other. And what's going to be clear is that Yaakov, on his right, is where the angel is. They're both facing the same direction. And if that's the case, then when the angel goes to hurt Yaakov, he's going to hit him on the right side because that's the side that's closest to the angel. Now we're going to give 2 opposite reasons as to why Yaakov is walking with the angel on his right. Okay? So, first one. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar, ki goy nidmalo. He thought that when he saw the angel, what did he think? He thought it was a non-Jew. And he was a little bit nervous because in those days, right, or at least certainly in the rabbis' days, this was the case. So when they're reading history, they're reading it through their eyes. There was a concern that the non-Jew was going to do something bad to him. So Amar Mar, as it says in the Gemara, Yisrael shenitfalo goy baderech, if you're a Jew who has a non-Jew walking next to you, toflo liyamino, make sure he's on your right side. Why? Because then his left hand is closest to you. If he wants to attack you, you're in a stronger position. Your right hand is there to protect, and their left hand is closest to you, and their left hand is their weaker hand. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Kameda Rav Papa Mishmei Rav Bar Ula Amal Kitzami Chacham Nidmalo. The opposite. He thought he was a Talmid Chacham. He thought he was a rabbi kind of figure. Damar Mar. Now, why did he then go on Yaakov's right? Hamahalech liyamin rabo harezebur. You're a fool if you walk to the right of a rabbi. It's not derech eretz, Rashi says. Okay, I don't know why exactly, but the idea is that your rabbi should always be on your right, and you shouldn't be on the right of the rabbi. So that's why he was walking. He thought it was a Talmid Chacham, so he put him on his right. And that's how we know the angel attacked him on the right side, because the right of Yaakov was closest to the angel. V'Rabbanan. Now, how are the rabbis going to respond to number 2, that they were opposite each other? And that's why number 3 and 4, that they were next to each other and he was on the right side. Well, the Rabbanan me'achorei ata, he came from behind the angel. Right? This is, he had the power of surprise, right? The advantage of surprise. V'nashe b'travayu, and then he grabbed him both sciatic nerves. And that's why, right, he grabbed both his thighs, and that's why we can't eat both of them. Okay? And then that kind of is the response of the rabbis to all the previous ones. So now we have a few questions. Rabbanan hai behav koimo magdar shebe. So what did the rabbis do with this word behav koimo? Why do you need that? It's really kind of an unnecessary thing. You could just say he grabbed the kaf yarech, right? He grabbed the thigh of Yaakov. It didn't have to say while he was fighting with him. Obviously, while he was fighting with him. So we need it for a different statement of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Ta'amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, melamed shehe'elu arvak margalotam ad kisei hakavod. We learn from here that the dust that was going on during the fight between Yaakov and the angel, the dust of their feet went all the way up to the heavens. Okay, how do we get this from there? Well, k'tiv hacha behav koimo. That's what it says here. Uk'tiv hatam v'anan avak raglav. There's a pasuk in Nahum which talks about God. Actually sounds like the 13 attributes, Hashem, Erech Hapayim, etc. And then it says, and Anan is the Avak, Raglav is a cloud. Okay? Now, so the Avak is associated with the throne of God, and therefore this Avak, it went up to the throne of God, What does it mean? I think what they mean is, and we're going to have a lot of drashot today, we're going to have to ask what they mean. What I think it means is that this was a very significant fight that had implications that went up to the heavens. Okay, it had huge implications, this fight with Yaakov and the angel. But Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, another statement he makes, Lama nikra shmo Gid HaNasheh? Why do they call it the Gid HaNasheh? Well, apparently, according to this, it got its name from this incident. It wasn't called the sciatic nerve until this happened. Now, sciatic nerve doesn't help us, but Gid HaNasheh in Hebrew, Shenasha mimkomo va'ala. It was taken out of its place and came out. Basically, it was dislocated. Okay, that's what the angel did. He dislocated the Gid HaNasheh. Nasha is from the root of to dislocate. How do we know this? V'cheinu omer nashta gevuratam hayu l'nashim. Okay, very anti-women phrase, or not anti-women, but at least showing the weakness of women. Their strength left them, nasha, okay, left them, and they were like women. In other words, they were weak like women. Okay, so that's just a pasuk in Yirmiyahu about the giborim, about the strong ones, that their strength left them. Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, Mai dachtiv davar shalach b'Yaakov v'nafal b'Yisrael. Here we're quoting a pasuk from Yeshayahu, which is sort of like an intro to a speech. Okay, the davar shalach Hashem b'Yaakov v'nafal b'Yisrael. God sent His word b'Yaakov and it fell on Yisrael. What does that mean? Well, it's a reference to this situation. Davar shalach b'Yaakov ze Gid HaNasheh v'nafal b'Yisrael shepashat isuro b'chol Yisrael. In other words, this thing fell on the Jews. This was on Yaakov, which was the injury he got, and it spread the prohibition to all the Jews. That's nafal b'Yisrael. It fell on the Jews. V'amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, he makes another statement. Mai tachtiv utavoach tevach v'hachin. This is in the pasuk when Yosef's brothers come to Egypt with Binyamin, and they finally come with Benjamin. So it says to the person on his house, bring these people in. I want you to feed them. V'tavoach tavach, which means slaughter the meat. V'hachin, and prepare it. So what are we going to darshan from this? Not laws of kashrut, but that Yosef made sure not only that it was kosher, but that his brothers would see that the food was kosher. So what do they say? What does that mean? Tavoch tevach v'hachin. Pra lahem beit hashchita. Show them. Tavach meaning show them where you slaughtered it. Show them that you slaughtered it in the neck so they know it's kosher shchita. V'hachin, which is prepare it, tol Gid HaNasheh b'fneihem. Take out the sciatic nerve in front of them. Now, obviously, this statement is Kiman Amar Gid HaNasheh Nesa L'vnei Noach. This goes with the statement that we mentioned earlier that we're going to see on Daf Kuf, that it goes with the opinion that the Gid HaNasheh was a prohibition already before the time of Matan Torah. Right? As soon as Yaakov had happened, it became a prohibition immediately, and that's an issue that's a machloket. Vayivater Yaakov levado. Now Yaakov ended up by himself. That's how the whole fight started. He was on his own. I'm going to learn a whole bunch of things about that. Amar Rabbi Elazar. What held him back? Why was he separate from everybody else? Why was he by himself? Shenishtayel apachim ktanim. It was because of small jugs. He went back because they left a few small things behind, and he went back to get it. So mikan, what do we learn from this? Their money is more important to them than their bodies. Okay, they're willing to sacrifice for money. Okay, it seems a little weird. You would think, why should they care about money? So what does this mean? Well, v'kol lama. Why is this? L'fi she'en poshtin yedehem begazel. Because they don't steal. Because they don't steal. Okay, there's two ways to see this. First of all, the Ben Yehoyada says it's certainly not that he risked his life. This wasn't a risk of life, right? Look, he didn't die, right? But he's willing to get injured, okay, even for money, okay? And he doesn't care so much about his body. He's willing to suffer for the sake of getting money. First of all, some people think this means he cared about small things, right? Little details, small pachim ktanim. You can make all sorts of drashot about this, significances. But the point is, this could be understood in two ways. Either they don't steal, so they need money. So because of that, even the small things are important to them. They go back for them. On the other hand, you could explain it, no, since they don't steal, they value what they have. People who steal and don't work hard for what they have don't really care about their property. The tzaddikim, everything they make is their own, from their own money, so they care about it, and that's why they don't want to leave it behind. Vayavek ish imo adalot shachar. We're just going to darshan this whole section, okay, and then we're going to actually darshan the beginning of Parsha Vayetze with the angels going up and down the ladder, which happens before this, which you'll see soon how we're going to get to that, and then we're going to go off on a tangent there and then come back to our story. Vayavek ishimo adalot hashachar. So then he fights with this angel until the morning, until dawn. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Mikam the Talmid Chacham shelo yitzei yechidi balayla. Okay, now what happened? He fought with him all night. That means Yaakov went out at night by himself. Well, what do we learn from this? That was a big mistake. He shouldn't have done that. Okay, and Talmid Chacham should never go out alone at night. It's dangerous. Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana Mar Mehacha. So now we're going to see a bunch of other places where we can learn this from. Okay, with Yaakov we learn it from the negative. He shouldn't have done that. Turning now to Amabed, Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana says we're going to learn it from here. We're going to learn it from Boaz. Hinehu zoreh et goren asorim. Okay, and then what happened? Okay, halayla at night, and then he stayed at night. He didn't go back home at night because he was busy in the fields, and then it got late. He didn't want to walk home at night. This was a positive, right? He saw that it was nighttime. He said, I'm not going out at night. And same thing with the next one. Rabbi Abahu Amar Mehacha. Okay, we're going to have 5 altogether. This is number 3. Vayashkem Avram baboker vayachvosh et chamuro. Very famous on the way to the Akedah. He does it in the morning. He didn't go out at night. V'Rabbanan Amar Mehacha lech na re'et shlom achecha ve'et shlom v'chulei. When Yaakov tells Yosef to go to his brothers when they end up putting him in the pit, he says, go and see Shlom Achecha. So Rashi says see is when at a time when you can see them. Rav Amar Mehacha, last one, Vayizrach lo hashemesh. What does it mean, Vayizrach lo hashemesh, right? And then the sun came up. What do you see? He didn't go back. Okay, maybe he made the mistake on the way in, but on the way out, he didn't leave until it was morning. He waited till the morning came. So he didn't want to go back home at night. Amar Rabbi Akiva, Sha'alti et Rabban Gamliel ve'et Rabbi Yeshua be'iliz shel imaum. Okay, so now we're going to have this intro. Why it's important we don't know, but Rabbi Akiva says, I asked Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua the following question in the butcher shop of Imaum. It's a place. Shalchu likach. Now, why were they in this iliz? Because Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua halchu likach be'emal l'mishteh b'nosha Rabban Gamliel. They went to buy meat for the wedding of Rabban Gamliel's son. K'tiv. So now Rabbi Akiva asked, while they're in the butcher shop, this is what they're always talking about, K'tiv vayizrach lo hashemesh. V'chi shemesh lo levad zarcha. It's interesting, they're in a butcher shop, right? And it's the old parsha that led to the Gid and Hashem. But maybe that's what made him think about it. I don't know. But he says, vayizrach lo hashemesh. The sun rose for him. It's a very strange thing. What do you mean? The shemesh lo levad zarcha, it just rose for Yaakov? Halo l'cholo olam zarcha. What do you mean? It rose for the whole world. But sun rises, it rises. Okay, maybe not for the whole world, but for all the people in that area. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Shemesh haba ba'avuro, zarcha ba'avuro. The shemesh that set, this was the same sun that set for Yaakov on some other occasion, also rose for him on this occasion to allow him to go home. Now, dichtiv, how do we know that the shemesh set for him on a different occasion? This is going to bring us to Parshat Vayetze, the whole beginning, when he runs away from Esav, as opposed to now when he is reconciled with Esav. Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva vayelech Haran. So Yaakov leaves the beginning of Parshat Vayetze. That's why it's called Vayetze. Yaakov leaves Beersheva and he goes to Haran. Then it says Uktiv vayivga b'makom, and then it says and he stopped in this place. What place? Beit El. Now Beit El is in Israel. Haran is outside of Israel. So it says he went to Haran, and then it says and he was in Beit El. How did that make any sense? If he got to Haran already, he's not in Beit El. So Kimata l'Haran amal, when he got to Haran, he actually passed Beit El, went to Haran, and said, wait, efshar avarti al makom shitpalu avotai v'ani lo itpalalti. He realized, I can't believe I passed a place where my forefathers prayed, and I didn't pray there in Beit El. Kadyav da'ate l'mehadar, as soon as he set up his mind, maybe I should go back to Beit El, kaftzale ara, the land moved for him, okay, miracle happened. Next thing Yaakov knew, he was in Beit El. Immediately, what did he do? He prayed. Kad Saleh, when he finished davening, Ba'ai Lemehadar, he wanted to go immediately back to Haran. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Tzadik Zeh Ba Lebeit Meloni V'Yipater B'Lo Lina. God said, this righteous person comes to my hotel and he doesn't stay the night? No way. I want Yaakov to stay in the place where my presence is stronger. Miyad ba hashemesh. So what did God do? He made the sun set immediately so that Yaakov wouldn't go on his way. So he quickly made the sun set, and that's the time when the sun set, and that because of that, right, the same sun that set for him on that occasion now rose for him on this occasion. Now, K'tiv vayikach me'avnei makom. Okay, since we're on Parshat Vayetze, we're now going to bring a slew of drashot. Some of these will be familiar to you, or might be. A slew of drashot about the Parsha Vayetze. So what happens is, if you remember, there's a very famous drasha. Yaakov leaves. He gets right as he leaves from Beersheba. He goes to Haran, but here he stops in Beit El, and then it says he sleeps there. Vayikach me'avnei makom. What does he sleep on? He doesn't have a pillow, so he takes the stones. Vayasem erashotav. He puts them under his head. Vayishkab b'makom, and he sleeps there. And then it says he wakes up in the morning. Vayikach et ha'even asher sam erashotav vayasem ota matzeva. And he puts up a matzeva, what do you call it, a monument, with the stone that was under his head. And what do you mean? There were stones a pasuk ago. So vayikach me'avnei makom uchtiv vayikach et doesn't make any sense. Was it one stone or many stones? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak melamed shenitkabtzu kol otam avanim lamakom echad. From here we learn that all the stones got together to one place. V'kol echad ve'echad omeret alay yaniach tzadik ze rosho. They all wanted to be the one that Yaakov is going to sleep on. They were fighting. Tana, and the Braita says, v'kulam nivleu be'echad. But then they all joined together and become one stone. This is always a source used to talk about unity, talk about, right, instead of fighting and bickering, better to all be unified. But it also shows that Yaakov, on his way, right, on his trek now, he's about to build his life, and he's thinking about his parents and how they each had sons that split and went in different directions. And here's a sign that even though there's going to be a lot of inner fighting, and we know much of that, right, all through the rest of Tanakh, these tribes don't always get along with each other. But in the end, you're going to have one family. You're not going to be like your parents. You're going to have all one family. So it's like a bit of a message to Yaakov that all your sons are going to be part of one nation and not separate nations like you and your brother, and you and and your uncle and his your father and his uncle. So now he has a dream, and the sulam is on the ground. Tana kama ruchbo shel sulam. So the Braita says, how wide was the sulam? Shmonat alafim parsaot. 8,000 parasangs. That's huge. Parasang is a far distance, so we're talking 8,000 of that. How do we get to that? So it says there were angels going up and down the ladder. Olim is shnayim, it's plural. Yordim shnayim is plural. So at any given point, there were two going up, two going down, and when they all ended up on the same rung, there were 4 people across. Now, what we're going to have to prove is, if we want to get to 8,000 parasangs, we're going to have to say that each angel is 2,000 parasangs. 2 times 4 will make 8. K'tiv be b'malach in Daniel, it talked about the angel, and it says, Ugviato, his body was Kit Tarshish, like the city of Tarshish. Ugemire, and it's known, did Tarshish tre elef parsehavu, and the Tarshish was known to be a city with 2,000 parasangs, and that's how we get to 8,000 parasangs. Tana, this is obviously an exaggeration. Tana, it was a dream. So, Tana, another Braita says, Olin, what were they going up and down for? Olin, mistaklim, b'diukno shel mala. Yordin, u'mistaklim, b'diukno shel mata. Diukan is a portrait. What happened? They went upstairs, all the way up to the heavens, and they saw the face, the portrait of Yaakov. Okay, if you remember, the Chayot have these 4, one is the face of a man. So they see a man up in heaven, and it's Yaakov's face. And they come down, and they see Yaakov's face is down there. And the angels got jealous. Ba'u l'sikune, they wanted to kill him, because they said, what? We can only live up above. This person can live down above, right, down below and up above. He must be much greater than us, and they didn't like that. They saw it as a threat. Miyad, immediately it says, and that's why the next pasuk says, Vine Hashem nitzav alav. Okay, so we have the right, this is right after that, okay? It says, Hinei Hashem nitzav alav, and then he says, we're going to read the rest of this later, Ani Hashem Elohei Avraham Avicha v'Elohei Yitzchak, right? I'm the father of Avraham and Yitzchak, your fathers. Ha'aretz asher ata shochev aleha, the land that you're sleeping on, lecha ednena u'lezarecha. I will give to you and your future generations. We'll get to that later. But the point being, God was standing there protecting him from the angels who wanted to kill Yaakov. At that instant, the angels were trying to kill him. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Ilmalei mikra katuv i'afshar la'omro. If the pasuk wouldn't say this, there's no way we would have been able to say this. It seems a complete disgrace of God. Ka'adam shemenif al beno. God was standing there like someone waving a fan at his son. In other words, God was standing there protecting Yaakov, right? We're supposed to be protecting God, or right? It's us doing work for God, not God doing work for us. So now they say at the end of this pasuk, the land you're on. Now, how much land was he on? He was sleeping on like a 4-cubit area, something like that. Okay, it wasn't very big. That's not such a big promise. My ribute, what's this big promise? God's promising what? These 4 amot are going to be yours? Very nice. Okay, that's not going to help me and my children. Right? One person can fit here. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, מלמד שקיפלה הקדוש ברוך הוא לכל ארץ ישראל והניחה תחת יעקב אבינו, שתהא נוחה לכבש בניו. So what Rabbi Yitzchak learns is that God folded up the whole Eretz Israel under Yaakov so that it would be easy for him, and it's to show this is going to be very easy for you. This is going to be like a 4 amot space that you have to conquer. Okay, not that it was so easy for them, but okay. Vayomer shalchini ki Allah hashachar. Okay, so then the angel says, okay, we're done with the sidetrack. We got sidetracked on the Vayetze story because Vayizrach lo hashemesh, and that's going to be just like the sun set for him in the Vayetze story. Now we're back to our story. The angel says, send me off because it's morning. Well, Yaakov thinks this is strange. What? It's almost morning, right? Ya'ala shachar, the sun is starting to rise. I got to get out of here quickly. Why do you have to usually get out of there quickly? Because you don't want people to see you. So Yaakov says, Amalo ganavata o kubyustus atavit. He didn't realize it was an angel. He said, what? Are you a thief? Or, according to Rashi, kubyustus is a kidnapper. So says this can't be that. It must be a gambler who, like, people are after them for their money that they don't pay up on, and someone's chasing him. Okay, so for some reason, mityarem and ashacha. What? Are you scared of the morning, of the light? Amar lo, he says, no, malachani, and this is going to get us off on our last sugya. I'm an angel. What am I in such a rush for? I'm not running away from something. I'm running to something. What is it? Very interesting drasha. Umiyom shenivreti, from the day I was created, lo higia zmani lomar shira ad achshav. It hadn't been my time yet to say shira, but today is my day. This is the day I'm supposed to say shira in the heavens. I got to get there. It's my one day. Okay? It's like I have a show. I got to be there. This supports the statement of Rav Hanan el-Amarav, the Amar Rav Hanan el-Amarav, Shalosh kitot shemalachei sharet omrot shira b'chol yom. There's 3 groups of angels that every day say shira. Echad omeret kadosh, echad omeret kadosh, v'echad omeret kadosh Hashem tzvaot. And we know this from Kedusha, that's why we pick up our feet. We're supposed to be like angels, because this is the word the angels say. That comes from the psukim in the prophets about the angels and this vision of the angels. Anyway, kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Right, so one says kadosh, one says kadosh, one says kadosh Hashem tzvaot. Meitive. Now we're going to have a difficulty on this. Okay, so we got a little off. What the angel said, let me go because I have to go say shira in the heavens. I got to be there. And then we said, what's shira? Right, this supports the statement of Rav Hanan in the name of Rav that the angels say shira 3 times. There are 3 angels every day that say it, or 3 groups of angels, and one says kadosh, one says kadosh, one says kadosh Hashem tzvaot. Now we're going to have a problem with this kadosh Hashem tzvaot because we'll see in a minute, but there's one word and then there's God's name. Now we're going to see why that's a problem. Meitive. The following source says, and this is where we're going to end today. Chavivim Yisrael lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu yoter mimalachei hasharet. The Jews are more beloved in God's eyes than the angels in 3 ways. We're going to see it. This goes back to the thing about the angels being jealous of Yaakov. Right? We think angels are so amazing, but this is saying humans are better than angels. There's a whole bunch of sugyot that talk about this. So, number 1. Yisrael omrim shira b'chol sha'ah. They say shira every hour. U'malachei hasharet ein omrim shira lepam achat b'yom. The angels only once a day. V'amrela, some people say pam achat b'shabbat, once a week. V'amrela, some people say pam achat b'chodesh, once a month. V'amrela, some people say pam achat b'shana, once a year. V'amrela, pam achat b'shavua, once every 7 years. V'amrela, pam achat b'yova, once every 50 years, some people say. Okay, the angels don't get to say shira whenever they want. We can say shira whenever we want. V'amrela, and some people even say pam achat ba'olam, one time only, ever. Okay, second, that wasn't really relevant. Second thing, v'Yisrael mezkirim et Hashem achar shtei tevot. The Jews can mention God's name after they said 2 other words. Like, for example, Shenemar Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So after Shema Yisrael, we say Hashem's name. Malachei Hasharet em mezkirim et Hashem ela achar 3 tevot. But they have to wait till they said 3 words till they could say it. How do we know? Kadosh, 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 right? Kedichtiv, Kadosh, 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 3 words, Hashem tzvaot. Only after that did they say Hashem, Hashem. What's the problem? Well, the 3rd angel there said Kadosh Hashem and said it right away after 1 word. So that doesn't seem to match. Okay, anyway, third answer before we get to the problem here. First, the Jews sing below, then the angels can only say Shira after we've started. How do we know that? Biran yachad kochvei boker, v'hadar vayariu kol b'nei Elohim. So it says Biran birinenu, when they sing together. The stars of the morning, this is when the Jews sing, then the b'nei Elohim can start singing as well. So we have to sing first, then they follow. Anyway, back to the problem. Ella, so how do we resolve it? Echad omer kadosh, echad omer kadosh kadosh, ve'echad omer kadosh 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 Hashem tzvaot. One says kadosh, the next one says kadosh kadosh, and the third one says kadosh 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 Hashem tzvaot. He doesn't start with kadosh Hashem. That the angels can't do. Okay, then they're going to ask, Vayika Baruch. What about Baruch Kvod Hashem Imkomo? That's 2, and then God's name. So we're going to get back to that and answer it tomorrow. Okay, with that we finished for today. What did we do? We started with the 3 answers, the 3 possible answers to, was Rabbi Yehuda clear on it that it was right or in doubt? In the end, we said the third source was successful, and we proved it's clear. He was clear about it, otherwise we wouldn't get those lashes. Then we have 4 answers to how we know it's the right one. Where does Rabbi Yehuda get it from, and how do the rabbis explain the psukim? Otherwise, from there we started getting off into how do we darshan these psukim. We did all the drashot on the psukim of the battle of Yaakov's fighting with the angel, with a little tangent in the middle where we got off on Vayetze, and the drashot there because of Vayizrach lo Hashemesh, and the parallel to there, the sun set on Yaakov, and then because God wanted him to sleep in Beit El, and then we finished up with the other, right? Then we got back to the drashot, Shalcheni Naki ala Shachar, and what was going on there, and that the angel was in a rush to get to his time to go say the Shira in the heavens, and from there we got off a bit about the angels' Shira in heaven and how that's different, and how our Shira on earth is better than their Shira in the heavens. And with that, we finished today's daf. A lot of Agadatot, interesting stuff, and we will finish here today. Wishing everyone a good day.